Name is Emily Loader.
Sorry, Emily.
No, do you want me to start again?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. Um, call this meeting to order 7:05 p.m. at May 28th, 2025. My name is Emily Loader, and I'm the Vice Chair of the Community Services Advisory Board. And we'll be meeting this evening to be discussing the animal ordinance, and that is the only item on our agenda. So I would like to note that this meeting is set for 1 hour and will end at 8 p.m. this evening. We do have a lot of people on the meeting, and we would love to hear your thoughts and love to take those into consideration. However, please remember that we're in a professional setting, and if someone is saying the same comment or the same comment has been said multiple times, that if you have new information to share, we would love to hear that as well. So please keep all comments professional and respectful. And please mute yourself, and then when you're called on to speak, then you can raise your hand and unmute yourself. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes a person, and we'll be ending public comment after about 25 minutes if needed. So we'll be starting off sharing that the Community Services Advisory Board has been reviewing the animal ordinance over the last year and a half or so. And we have a lot of people on the board who are current dog owners and who frequent the facilities here in Scarborough, and know that we've received comments from citizens who are both dog owners and not dog owners. And so we want to make sure that we take all of those comments into consideration from all of our citizens. And we also want to take into consideration all of the different laws that happen in the towns surrounding Scarborough. So Saco and Old Orchard Beach, and see how their policies and their animal ordinances are similar to ours. And so that was kind of the goal going forward, to making sure that we can find that sweet spot of allowing people to have animals in a space that's safe for a lot of the citizens. Councillor Shoup has supported our work on this ordinance throughout the entirety of us reviewing it. And a lot of the review that we've been doing on the ordinance has been organizational changes in it, not necessarily changing a lot of the rules that are in place, and maybe defining them and making them more clear so that they can be understood by citizens. Amanda, do you have anything to add?
I can find my unmute button. Yes, thank you. Amanda Doherty, I'm on the Community Services Advisory Board. I just wanted to add to what Emily said. I always think I'm a big picture person, and I always think it's helpful to kind of explain a frame of reference for efforts that are undergone, so that folks understand that, and comments can be framed with that in mind. So want to offer that when our board we receive information, obviously, from citizens relating to community services, but we've heard certainly from dog owners, and then also folks that have had interactions with dogs. And so hearing from both sides, we prompted a review of this ordinance. And one of the things that we found, unrelated to a specific rule or restriction, was just that the ordinance wasn't always clear. And that's not helpful to anyone. And so in addition to making sure we had, input from citizens that had provided information to us about questions or concerns, we also really wanted to make sure that there wasn't, to the extent we could, a gray area, that rules or issues that were in the ordinance were clear to everyone, so that it would create less conflict, less questions, and people could go about their day knowing exactly kind of what was hoped for, what was expected. And so when we go through the ordinance kind of piece by piece, we did not make a significant amount of substantive changes. I understand there may have been versions. Yeah, I can see the nodding. Just if I can finish. There are many versions that are out there that are not actually what our board is putting forward, but what other interested parties are proposing. So I know it's easier said than done, but I ask that you listen carefully and watch closely to what's actually being proposed from our board, because our goal is to make sure that rules are fair and clear to all of our citizens. Additionally, certainly if there's something that you see in the revisions that were suggested that you think is not a good idea, we want to hear that respectful feedback, because ultimately what our final votes are on are we want to be as all-encompassing as we can to make sure that both dog owners and citizens with that have interactions with dogs feel safe and protected and free to do as they wish with their loved ones, including pets in our town. So again, I just ask that you not go into this review with a preconceived notion of what we're trying to do or accomplish or what we've done, but just truly look at the efforts and understand what our goals are, which had a lot to do with making things more clear. Thank you, Emily.
Great, thank you, Amanda. So what I'm going to do right now is share my screen, and what we're going to do is go over and share those um, changes that we're going to be recommending. It's also on the Town of Scarborough website under the committees, and if you click agenda under CSAB, then it's underneath the agenda. So if you give me just 1 second to share, and then Amanda will take over.
Okay. Is that large enough for everyone to see? I'm operating on a small laptop tonight, so I want to make sure if others are in my boat, you can see. Okay.
Yes.
Emily, let me know when you want me to begin.
Yep, go ahead, and I'll just scroll slowly.
Okay, thank you. And if if I miss something, feel free to let me know. I'm going to be toggling between screens a little bit. So let's see, sorry, I'm just opening up my document. So the purpose section was not changed. The applicability section stays the same, which is simply that this is applicable to animal owners and persons that are keeping or controlling dogs in our town. The general standards section, so this is what you have in front of you now. The board has proposed not necessarily content changes to this, but rather a change in location of the ordinance. The license and rabies, those are not standards in the traditional sense of the term. Those are rules or policies that have to be followed. So it's our proposal that the general standards section just indicate, you know, that this ordinance is going to be enforced by the Scarborough Police Department, and reference the fact that there are the town of Scarborough also has staff that will assist in education, as well as ensure proper signage. And we would propose to move the license and rabies section to a different component that talks about just kind of the rules and guidelines that animal owners should follow. Moving to the definition section, let's see, 1 and 2, all the same. 3, we were proposing to just remove because it was really duplicative of other areas. 4, 5, 6, we proposed to keep the same. In 7, it was just kind of a clarification, if you will, that it's dog at large, not just at large. We also proposed to add in the definitions section. This, and just from a alphabetical nature, this part about the dangerous dog, there were clarifications of language. It's not our creation of a definition, rather it's pulled directly from the state of Maine animal statutes, and that way there's consistency between our town and the statutes that a court would potentially be looking at if there was a violation. Let's see, scrolling a little more, sorry. Obviously, definition of dog, pretty straightforward. Again, just the dog at large part, I would propose to put it in right after dog, because I like when things are in alphabetical order. My role here is not one of content necessarily, but of formatting and placement. So hopefully I'm being clear enough for folks. Let's see, in the definition section, the current one said a handheld device 30 feet or less in length, which can be used to restrain a dog. We do have a proposal just to streamline that a bit. The 30 feet or less in length is not a definition, it's really a kind of a rule. So we would just, in this section, change leash to say that it's a handheld device which can be used to restrain an animal. Leash control, we propose to take out. That's really more of a requirement rather than a definition. The non-responsible party space barrier, which is a mouthful, and if anyone has a more efficient way to say that, I am all ears. But just wanting to make sure in this section that we also have a way to define the area around a person that may not wish to be interacting with a dog, and what that kind of general space parameter is. Next is a nuisance dog. Again, that precise definition is coming from the state of Maine statutes, and we wanted to make sure that that was clear because we felt that the term was used in the older ordinance, but it wasn't clear enough what it was. So we're proposing to put the actual definition in here. Owner, I believe, really stays the same. We wanted to make sure to add in this definition of public property. Again, it's from our perspective, it's really important that if we're using terms in rules that we have or violations, that we're defining it in this definition section, which is what state of Maine statutes do. And so we just propose to add in that definition of public property. For responsible dog owner, there is a suggestion that we kind of take that part out. It really includes rules in here of things that dog owners must do. That's not a definition. So we're proposing to kind of move that to a different section and then go straight to responsible party. One of the things that was thought here is same thing. There's some maybe language in here about violations and penalties is really just streamline responsible party to be any person who has possession of a dog, even if not the owner, and then put requirements and rules elsewhere. Restricted areas really stays the same. Voice and sight control stays the same. Okay. With regards to the public property standards, so really what we're moving into in these next pages of the ordinance are the rules section. So we do have a proposal that we kind of rename, if you will, the 604-5 section to be called rules. So that way, someone wants to know what the rules are, this is the section they go to. And then if there's a term they want to know what it means, they go to the definition section and just make it really clear. The first two things that we believe should be in the rules section are those kind of descriptions of licenses and rabies tags that I had mentioned were listed earlier, that those would be the first thing in the rules section. In the document that you're looking at, there's this information about, like I said, about public property and the part about, the fields and all of these things. These were terms that were used relating to violations, but had not been clearly explained or defined anywhere. And so it's our proposal that within the rules section this public property standards kind of be moved after we've talked about the first initial rules and essentially violations that would need to be followed. But in terms of the language, and I know as you scroll down, Emily, to page 5, this section here I know is kind of the part that folks have the most information about. And so we do have a proposal I would just offer to you that how this is written right now is confusing. Maybe that's just me and the way I read or other folks on our board, but it can get confusing trying to figure out, okay, if it's this date on the calendar, what rule do I actually have to be following? And then, am I okay with that rule or do I think that's a terrible rule? And so we do have our proposal to kind of clean up this section and list the dates, if you will. So, for example, have, I'm just scrolling to my notes. I apologize. Give me one moment. To have, April 1st to Labor Day. Then here's May 15th to Labor Day. Then here's Labor Day to May 14th. And while it may mean some sections are duplicative, the intention is not to be confusing, but rather have it be just very clear because as it is right now is confusing. Emily, do you want me to keep going and then we can go back to this section to clarify any substantive changes just so that the format is clear? Or do you want me to get into the nitty-gritty, if you will, now?
I think if we go through the whole document and then if we need to go back to revisit sections, we can.
Okay, great. Thank you. Get my notes back up here. So within within the rules section, what we're proposing is a number of things in the violation and penalties section would really be kind of listed under the rules section, where we have licenses and rabies tags, and then there would be other subsections defining animal noise, control of animal waste, trespass. The substance of those sections are not changing. It's directly referencing state statute, which is good. So if there would be any small tweak in language, it's simply to match the state statute, which I always think is a good idea, so that if unfortunately there was a violation and some type of court appearance required, that everyone has proper notice of what the expectations are. Trespass, dogs at large, same thing. This should really all be under the rules section, so it's very clear of what's of what's required. And then after all of those rules is where we're proposing we kind of outline the public property kind of guidelines that the town has. Then finally, there would be a violation and penalty section. So that's a heading that you already see in this now, but we would take out the things that are just rules. And then we specifically would outline what the violations are that a person could have kind of brought against them. And again, the intention is just to strictly follow the statute so that you properly know and have notice of what, could happen. So for example, in the document you're looking at, page 7, kind of towards the bottom where it outlines penalties, it talks about different sections of the ordinance that potentially could be violated and what the consequences would be. We're proposing the identical thing in this new statute, and it has been checked and is consistent with state statute. And if there are some mandatory minimum financial penalties for some of the other rules, so for example, things about animal trespass, dangerous dogs, etc., it's our proposal to essentially copy and paste from state statute and include that in the violation and penalties section, again, so folks have actual notice of what the consequences are, so that no one says, oh, our town ordinance says this and I didn't realize, because ultimately if something gets brought to court, and the court's going to be looking at the statute with regards to the fine and penalties, and we really should be matching those. Finally, the statutory reference and the severability clause in the appendix, those are all really identical. So I certainly think it's prudent to go back to the section, Emily, that is on page 5. But I know I probably talked too fast, and I'm a visual person and you weren't able to maybe see exactly what was in my brain, but I'm hopeful I explained reasonably well the suggested changes in content and format. When I say content, I really mean placement, right? Where are things found? If it were me and I was trying to figure out what the rules were and what could happen if I didn't follow them, I would find our current one to be extremely challenging. And so it's our hope to be more clear. Okay. So looking at the specific kind of restrictions, again, from a format perspective, it's our hope to kind of organize things better by date so that the rules are clear. The restrictions for April 1st to Labor Day, have a lot to do with restricted areas, which were defined and shown on the appendix. So it would be that, dogs would be prohibited from entering any restricted area as defined earlier in the ordinance. That all owners would have to have a dog on a leash that's no longer than 8 feet. The leash needs to allow the owner to bring the dog within 10 feet of him or her at all times. And that obviously owners make sure that they're respecting the space barriers. And that term we had shown above, the non-responsible party space barrier, that kind of mouthful there, but essentially that owners are making sure they're respecting that for folks that are not walking with them in their environment. Then the May 15th to Labor Day, that dogs would not be permitted on any beach from 9 to 5, that dogs would have to be on leash from 5 p.m. to dusk. All owners must have a dog on a leash no longer than 8 feet. Leash needs to allow the owner to bring the dog within 10 feet of him or her at all times. All owners must ensure that the non-responsible party space barriers are on it at all times, and certainly that their dogs are not in restricted areas as defined. So a lot of that is duplicative to the April 1st section, but again, we just wanted to make sure that it was clear. And then finally, there's kind
Hi,
of
I'm sorry. You just said that dogs must be on a leash from 5 p.m. till dusk. Is that what you said? Because that's not what is said on the page. I just want to clarify that.
Yes, I apologize. I did have that in my notes that was a discussion that that our folks had. I appreciate you clarifying that. What I can do is get through the rest and then maybe circle back to that if that's okay.
That's fine. I just wanted to make sure I wasn't reading or listening incorrectly. Thanks.
No, I'm very visual and I'm so glad that that you did that just so we can specifically address that point. I live by post-it, so I'm writing it down now. Um, Okay, and then the restrictions from Labor Day to May 14th. So my least favorite time of year because it gets cold. No dogs on any beach from 30 minutes after sunset or dusk to 30 minutes before sunrise or dawn. Dogs shall be on leash while entering or exiting vehicles at the beach. Dogs shall be on leash from 1 to 3 p.m. Leash may be up to 30 feet while accounting for the non-responsible party space barrier. If directed by animal control, responsible party may be required to leash. Whenever a portion of the beach has been roped off or fenced off, obviously that becomes a protected area, and dogs wouldn't approach. I think it's usually signed of 200 feet in such area. And then at all times, not otherwise addressed, dogs should be under voice and sight control. So Emily, do you mind scrolling up just like a smidge? Okay. So the rules are the ones that say beach restrictions general. Most of those were the Labor Day to May 14th restrictions as I just outlined them. And the ones that are down below were kind of the additional restrictions that were being suggested. The particular document that you have in front of you is following an older format. So I apologize for any confusion that me kind of verbally going through what our committee's thoughts are created, but where this isn't, certainly an opportunity for public comment from folks who agree, strongly disagree, think it's too strict or not strict enough. Obviously, that's the feedback our group is hoping to get tonight. And then ultimately, what can be presented to at the next step of the town process would hopefully be, obviously it's our board's vote, but we want to make sure that we're getting the input from everyone about that. And so, like I said, I'm not involved in, are we being strict or are we not being strict? I'm the format girl. So I may have to defer to others to answer some of the questions. But I think I've gone over everything from the document that's attached to the agenda. And I defer to Emily on how to proceed now.
Sure, thank you, Amanda. So we'll move on to public comment next. And I know that we have lots of people who would love to share their ideas or suggestions. And knowing that ordinances are complicated and for some of us that may not be our forte, but as volunteers on the Community Services Advisory Board and members of or citizens of Scarborough, we want to try to look out for, what's best, overall. So we know that not everybody's going to be happy and some people are not, and we understand that. And we're happy for as much feedback, as you guys would like to give us. And so with that being said, it's approximately 7:29 right now, and we'll open up the floor for public comment. And so if you are interested in public comment, you can have 3 minutes to speak. And after your 3 minutes, then we'll move on to the next person. Rich, you can go ahead and start and unmute yourself.
Emily, can I just interrupt? Can we revisit, because Valerie had raised a question initially? Is there a way that we can take her
Sorry, yes, and then Rich, you can be
first
after
and
her.
then, yes.
Oh, sorry. For some reason my hand raising doesn't work on my Zoom, so apologies for that. So, what I was asking before was a clarification on the rules because it looks like, and I see some things in the chat too, is that it seems some things within the document are not necessarily even in a more of a final draft. So it's unclear to us on the phone what would be voted on, what's not going forward, what's in what section versus another. So I understand there's clarification, but I think the one that I was questioning was the dogs off leash. What was mentioned, I think from Amanda, was 5 p.m. till dusk. Dogs have to be on a leash, which they currently are now, and I'm talking specifically on Higgins Beach. But what it said on the document was that dogs are always have to be on a leash. So that's the clarification I was looking for. And then even to back up prior to that, since I have the floor, what is the impetus for what these additional restrictions are trying to solve? So I understand some of them is just, you know, making the document more understandable, and that's fine. Or maybe moving things around, and that's okay. But some of the things, I was looking at the blues versus the greens, the dogs being on leash all times is obviously new. So what are we trying to solve here? Have there been any documented widespread issues that justify a significant shift in policy? So that's kind of my first question, and then the clarification on the point on the for the beach.
Sure. I will try to remember all of that, and if I forget something, please remind me. So we've been able to connect with community services and town council and connecting with them, to see if there's been any feedback about dogs on beaches and if, we've had citizens that are being safe with their dogs and not having them affect and knowing that we also get information about dogs who have not been following rules with their owners and have been not keeping on the leash or not under proper voice control. And so based off of the staff members for community services and what they interact with on a regular basis, and with reports and calls and information that we get from town hall, as well as working with other citizens, we wanted to take all of those aspects in mind, for the ordinance, and then make those recommendations to the ordinance committee. What the ordinance committee does, they can decide on their own if they like our recommendations or want to change, anything as well. So this is just what this particular board is recommending to ordinance, and then it's up to ordinance to decide. And the second part of your question was, I apologize.
Okay. Sorry, I'll clarify the first question just because I do this for a living. Just remember, people, the negative feedback always outweighs the positive feedback. So you might get some questions that relate to, bad interactions with animals, but you could have an overwhelmingly positive response to animals as well. So I just don't want the few negative calls to completely outweigh the positive experiences that people have, right? So just to keep that in mind as well. Second part was just clarification on the document as to for leashes being required full time. And again, I'm speaking Higgins Beach, but I guess it's all beaches. That was the clarification I was asking for in the document.
Amanda, do you want to address that?
I can. If you see me batting my arm around, a fly got in the house, so I apologize. So what, and I want to answer this kind of couch with, obviously I can see what a couple of the other comments, and it might be helpful to answer. So I don't know how many folks sign in to listen or listen to recordings of our meetings or kind of regular board meetings that we have, but the discussion about all of this started about a year ago. So it's not rushed in the sense that we're, this past week just hurriedly trying to make recommendations. But what I think what was discovered is that the town has a particular format that's typically used, and with our kind of cleanup that was being suggested, that's something that has to be reviewed by folks above our pay grade. So I do understand and recognize that it might seem confusing, or okay, you're reading from this note, but what am I looking at? I'm looking at my notes just because I'm an attorney and that's how I operate. I make notes based off what I'm trying to review and articulate. But I think what we're really looking for, certainly tonight, is the feedback on the specific rules. So, for example, what you just articulated, Valerie, of what you have in front of you says, dogs on leash at all times, but that's more than the current ordinance and different than what was being articulated. I can't speak to why that specific line about dogs on leash at all times is there, and I do apologize that I can. It's not in, it's not in what I have. But what I can offer is we would like your feedback about those rules, and then ultimately what we kind of clean up and present, hopefully would be consistent with all of the board members hearing the feedback and then making that final vote as the board.
Can
Okay,
I
so
speak now?
Oh, so
Yeah,
Valerie,
go-
we're gonna move
no,
on
that's
to
fine.
answer
That's
your
fine.
question. Yep,
Yep.
and we can come back to that. So Rich, you can go ahead. You have 3 minutes.
Thanks very much for your work and thanks for letting me speak. I'm a resident of Higgins. I'm part of a family that includes a dog. I've extended family at the beach with dogs and many friends and families, around the community that also have dogs that use the beach. And it definitely the leash at all times clause was the thing that jumped out at me. And I want to voice my opposition to that proposal. I think it's a solution to a problem that doesn't exist. Dogs have been allowed on Higgins Beach to run free within certain hours for decades, and it's brought nothing but joy to the dogs, nothing but joy to the owners, and I think an atmosphere of happiness and freedom to the beach as a whole, which I think is one of the things that makes Higgins special. And as a dog owner, I also know that dogs need time off leash with other dogs. They need to exercise, they have to socialize. And honestly, it's my dog's favorite time of the day. When he knows the word beach, he gets excited when he hears it. He doesn't want to be cooped up or stuck on an 8-foot leash at all times. And I think owners understand this and would never support a proposal that would condemn, these lovely creatures to more limits that impinge on their health and happiness. So, if Price could talk, he would tell you this is his number one priority. The main point, though, is that I think the rules that exist now are actually working. As someone who's been routinely president at Higgins Beach since the early 80s, I've seen no evidence otherwise. The ordinance as it stands, with hours where dogs can be off leash, provides a balance between the demands of different parts of the community, those who love dogs and everybody else. And anyone who wishes to change that, I think, should be required to prove that there's some kind of an existing problem that has to be solved. That it's an important problem and that the solution would work. And my sense is at this point, there's no important problem here, and that this proposal would actually hurt, not help. So yeah, I'm just opposed to this requirement that dogs be on leash at all times during the summer. I think we got to preserve this little window that they have for the sake of their health and happiness. That's my opinion, and I think Bryce would agree.
Thank you for your input.
Thank you, Rich. I appreciate that. We'll move on to Janine.
Hi, yes, Jean Westervelt, 26 Ashton Street. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. Amanda, to answer your question, I have watched every CSAB meeting back to November 2023 in its entirety. And to say that this is like watching sausage being made would be an affront to sausage. I have watched you all edit this document in real time. I don't know, it's bad governance, for lack of a better word. And a fish rots from the head, and I'm putting this on town council and your liaison. We should be having red line strikeout editions of this and not editing it in real time. I am a little bit heartened to know that you're an attorney, Amanda, because at least you have some basis of what may or may not be legal. But this is it's a hot mess. I don't know what to say. So I'm walking my dog on a town sidewalk with my dog on an 8-foot leash. I guess it's my responsibility to ask anybody that's walking past the sidewalk, with me, if I can let my dog approach within 10 feet of them. I mean, this is completely unworkable. I can't even believe you were considering going to the ordinance committee with this. It boggles the mind. I don't even know what else to say. I mean, it's not ready for prime time. And whether the beach or the sidewalks or the trails or the fields, it's kind of an unworkable mess. And I did also watch Todd Souza try to channel this process into some sort of productive direction, to no avail. And as Rich said, what problem are we trying to solve here? There's just like there was no problem until I feel like you guys created one. And there is a good sense of community for the dog owners. I met people at Piper Shores I never would have met before at Higgins Beach. And I really value that. And I value those connections. And I don't like it seems like this is destroying community, not building it. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you, Jean. We'll move
Thank
on
you.
to Katie.
Okay, and I'm having some internet issues, so I may freeze on you. Katie Foley, 7 Acorn Lane. I think almost everyone on here knows I'm a former town councilor. I was also a member of the ad hoc committee that drafted the original ordinance and compromise that has been in place for 12 years. My sister, who's on also, is the person who a lot of people don't know, who actually wrote the original piping plover ordinance. She's a biologist, also a dog owner and lover. So this topic, this issue, is not something that we're unfamiliar with. A lot of you will remember I did attend, I think, one of the first meetings when you were discussing this back in January. And then I had some subsequent follow-up with Todd. My understanding at the time, and the reason I didn't stay actively involved, well, two reasons. Number one, I kind of thought it was, you guys were not moving it forward. I didn't realize it was continuing to go on. I got the impression it was kind of dead in the water. Number two, we had a lot of personal family crisis going on with my mom, who lives with me, having a fall and ended up in rehab for 2 months. And that's a whole nother story you don't need to know. But I guess what I would just say in general, and Counselor Shoup will support this because I've said this to her. I don't blame some of you on the committee for being frustrated that some of your work did not get moved forward in a timely manner. Because now it's certainly been it's been a year and 4 months since I went to that first meeting. So I don't blame you for that. I will say I have to agree, it's the process and the way you've gone about it, very confusing. Even tonight, like you're saying, for example, on page 3, number 3, we're proposing to remove this. Well, how would anybody know what you're actually proposing to remove or not remove if it's not clearly struck out in a way that we can we can read it and go, okay, this is what the committee is saying they want to get rid of, and this is what they're saying they're going to change or keep. So I would implore you, before it goes to ordinance, to make sure you have a final product that you're 100% confident in, because right now it doesn't feel that way. I definitely appreciate the desire for more clarity. And I know we have a 3-minute time zone. There's a lot of things I want to say, but it's very confusing, and a lot of the confusion, just so you know as well. I back in March, when I first heard this was coming back up around, I was sent 2 different documents. I was sent a document that you guys worked on, dated from July 11th of last year, and it didn't have anything to do with beaches, nothing, zero. So, and then I was sent an amendment that was proposed by the Plover Group and Bill Donovan. That one had very little changes, but it was all about taking away the summer hours. And then the third thing that just came at us on this one, last thing, is dated May 7th. So it's been a very confusing process, hard to follow. I've been asked to keep the dog people at bay and calm and not upset the apple cart, because they are not major substantive changes. But this feels pretty substantive, especially when you say the all leash at all times. That's taking away those summer morning hours. That's unacceptable, 100%. I know you're looking for very specific feedback, so
Katie, you're at time, so if you can finish up, please.
yep, I've got 2 more because I know you wanted very specific feedback. So the specific feedback I would give you that's confusing for me especially is, the leash says 8 feet, but then they can't be within 10 feet. Well, if I have an 8-foot leash, how is, and the stores sell the leashes from 12 to 15 feet. So that's very confusing. And then, if you go to the soccer field on a Saturday morning, and you see a family there watching their young child play soccer, there's many times where there's a very well-behaved dog on a leash sitting with that family, rooting their youngster on. What you've done is gone from 0 to 10 at the athletic fields without allowing, I mean, maybe there's a compromise there. Maybe it's no off leash, in season of sports. Maybe it's, winter time only. But I think going from 0 to 10 is where I have seen our town fall down and make mistakes. And it feels like that's what you've done with that portion of what I see as a lot of changes. So sorry for going over, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Katie. The gentleman whose name is P-L-A-R-O-U.
Yes.
You could
Philip
start,
LaRue.
please.
Yep, Philip LaRue here from 37 Vesper Street in Scarborough. I'm just baffled by this whole document. Where is the red line version of this? We really need to see that. What you're changing, what you're deleting, what you're adding it should be red line version being done. Number one. Number two, some of the sections that were in the original have been taken out, like under animal noise. There was A, B, and C sections. B and C are gone. Why? Why is that happening? At large, doesn't mention anything about dogs hunting, okay? And there's a lot of hunters in the area. The other thing, the public property standards. What about service dogs? Are you going to ban service dogs too? Because if you do, you're opening yourself to a big lawsuit, okay? The other thing, the 200 feet from the demarcated line, okay? So that basically takes Higgins Beach, okay, and moves that point that the dogs have to be on leash during off-leash hours up to past Vesper Street, from Champion to Vesper, okay? That's not right, okay? We gave up the beach, that portion of the beach, to protect the plovers. And I think that's enough. We don't need that sentence in there, number 4, under the general beach restrictions. As far as off-leash time, I agree with everybody else. We should have off-leash time. And that's it. I'm done. Thank you very much.
Great, thank you. Okay, and in the interest of time, to end our meeting on time, we'll take our last comment from Suzanne, please.
Can you, if you're talking, Suzanne, I apologize. I think you're on mute.
Okay,
Sue Griffin?
sorry, I'm not
Thank
on mute anymore. Okay.
Not
So
me?
I also was going to mention how wide is a sidewalk, because I don't think they're 10 feet. So in order to walk a dog next to somebody down any sidewalk, you couldn't. So that was, but also your definition of a public property, I don't know where it is in there. It should say town owned, because otherwise you're trying to regulate even the land trust properties. And because well, I think you said that can be used by the public, which basically, private property can be used by the public if someone allows it. There are plenty of beachfront owners that actually own their beachfronts, and they allow for people to use their beachfront property. Public, the members of the public, they actually do. So I think you have to define that it needs to be town owned if that's what this ordinance is about. As far as the athletic fields go, I live on Black Point Road, and the Black Point, all summer long, I drive by every day, the athletic fields at Black Point Road, and there's nobody there, to the point I'm like, where are all the little leagues? I'm sitting there, where are all the little leagues all summer long? Where are the little leagues? It's very, and so I just feel like you're going way overboard on the athletic fields. I know Peterson Field, when my daughter was a soccer, when there's not soccer games, it's empty and it's a huge open space. And yeah, people should pick up their dog crap, because I had to go and bring 8 bags and pick it up. So I get there can be a problem that way, but there's no reason we can't share when there's not games there, because let me tell you, there's a lot of period times when nobody's there. And I guess my questions to you are, when are the dogs allowed to swim in the ocean? Because it sounds like they have to be on an 8-foot leash, and it sounds like they can only be on that 8-foot leash at And 8-foot leash doesn't, you can't throw a ball and let the dog run into the ocean, go swim. And then also, where in the town are you suggesting that dogs can run off leash during the times where you're banning it? But I think overall, oh, and just, I guess my last comment was sort of the, because of all these tariff and Canadian, the administration's words about Canada, Pine Point and Higgins Beach are losing a lot of our Canadian neighbor tourists, just FYO, but there's a lot of renters that come and bring their dogs. So, one thing you ought to keep in mind is that these people have already signed up and they already think their dogs are coming this summer. So that's just something to keep in mind. I don't think that us not being a welcoming community to their dogs is going to help the economics of our rental market. I think that's all I have right
That's
now.
about time. Yep.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you very much, Suzanne.
Yep.
Emily, I know we're closing public comment, but as a board member, can I just speak to some things I've witnessed? I guess I'll just dive in quickly because I know we're trying to wrap up here. As a mom of 3 young kids, I'm only speaking up because I know people have asked what's the problem here. As a mom of 3 young kids, I've had a lot of scary interactions with dogs at the beach. I know a lot of people will tell me that their dogs are friendly, and so it's okay for them to come and jump on my kids. And when we, don't, one of my kids is afraid of dogs, and consistently people say to us, well, he or she is friendly. I've also had a dog come down the stairs at Higgins, and there was no owner in sight, jumped on my 8-year-old. My 8-year-old was screaming. The dog owner came down and I said, your dog has to be on a leash. It was on a time that they were supposed to be on a leash. I said to them, your dog has to be on a leash. And they said, just shut up, which is an extreme case, but I'm sharing because people asked for what the problem is. I also had a dog who was on a leash and had an owner walking him, and the dog jumped on my kids and got off the leash, and one of my kids ran away, and then the dog continued to jump on another kid. And so these are examples of what I've seen, and we've heard complaints from other residents, and that's one of the reasons why we're here today. So I hope that provides some context of why these decisions were made, or why we're progressing in this direction. Sorry, Emily.
No, that's okay. So we understand that there's, lots of wonderful scenarios that happen with dogs being at, around in the community, and they are friendly, and we also have opportunities where that is not the case, and we want to make sure that all citizens are heard as much as possible. And for this committee, the next steps will be approving this document to send on to the ordinance committee. We will also be providing a redlined copy so that you can see more specific changes as well. The copy that we've reviewed in that is posted, is color coordinated to show you what currently originally exists in the ordinance versus what suggestions that we are making going forward. And then if you feel additional changes should be made to that, then the ordinance committee would be available for their meetings to attend to approach to make additional changes. These are only recommendations based off of all of the things that we previously listed from community services.
So I'm sorry, can you clarify? So you're saying that the version that is currently out there now that we just reviewed, which I think we all agree is very confusing, you're going to kick that forward to get voted on? Or are you going to go back, redline it? It's going to come back to public opinion, because is it even in a state right now it can even move forward?
We have a redlined version that looks like this, and then we have a cleaned up version as well that is a lot easier to read without all of the red line in it, and you'll be able to see all of those versions.
Right,
So
but what I'm saying is it going back to public review, or are you saying version that none of us have seen yet is going to be going for a vote.
It's the same version, and we will be voting on that this evening. So that's what the board members are going to do
Mhm.
right now. And then that will go to ordinance if it passes. So right now I'm going to call for a vote from committee members. I believe that we have a quorum in place. And Brittany, if you can note the members. And so all in favor of those recommending that this ordinance and changes move forward to the committee, please raise your hand. Great. Any opposed? Oh, abstain? Great. Okay, well, we really appreciate all of the comments, and we have,
Emily, can I just, I'm sorry, because there's two screens and not everybody has their video on, I don't even know, to be honest with you, who's actually on the committee and who voted, and if you have a full quorum. Like, it was just hard. I could see, I could see a few of you that, but I
Sure.
couldn't tell. So almost a roll call vote or might be more helpful just because of the Zoom format. You know what I mean?
sure, we can do, yep, we can do that real quick, and then we will adjourn after that.
Thank
So I'll do a roll call real quick to call names, and if you can respond yay, nay, or abstain. Let's see, Roger,
Yes.
Ellen,
Yes.
Alex,
Yes.
Amanda,
Abstain.
Daryl,
Yes.
Brittany,
Abstain.
and Emily, as myself, is a yes. So we do have quorum, and the vote does pass. So if we'll be calling the meeting at 7:57 this evening. So I appreciate everybody coming and know that our meetings are available online and in person to attend, in which you can have additional public comment. And we would love to hear any other feedback that you have going forward with any of the other issues that we address.
And thank you. One more thing. Where did you say we would find the redlined version?
It'll be posted on the CSAB page on the website where like the agenda and the minutes are. It'll be posted up there.
It's
Okay.
a red line and a clean version, because the red line from like a formatting perspective is honestly very hard to figure out, okay, what exactly is happening. So I believe both will be posted so
Will be
that
posted, yep.
one's easy to read and one is
Like within
outlined.
24 hours, you already have it, so I'd assume it'd be pretty quick.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Correct. Yep.
I have a question. Is this being recorded?
Yes.
Okay, so just to be on the recording, this is very disappointing. I feel like everyone's minds were already made up prior to this public comment. So that's all I have to say. Thank you.
We'll be ending the meeting now, closing adjournment, and everybody have a good evening. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.